Cincinnati's Horseshoe Casino was in the middle of a summer promotion in August 2013 when a random customer's name was drawn for a $1 million giveaway. The lucky casino goer, Kevin Lewis, came down to joyfully collect his prize and was awarded one of those giant checks we've all dreamed of receiving, right there on stage. But when casino employees began the process of verifying his identity, they quickly realized a mistake had been made. They had the wrong Kevin Lewis. The actual winner hadn't even been present in the casino at the time. Needless to say, Kevin number 1 was crushed at the prospect of having to give back that giant check, but the mistake had been understandable. Not only did the two men have the same name, but they were roughly the same age, similar in appearance, both frequent visitors to the casino and lifelong Cincinnati residents, and were even both engaged to be married. Fortunately for Kevin number 1, casino management decided that the only right thing to do was to let both men keep their winnings. It was the night two lucky guys named Kevin became instant millionaires, but only one of them did it totally by accident. Glenda Blackwell of North Carolina was sick and tired of her husband's scratch lottery ticket habit. The couple wasn't exactly rich, but her husband Buddy wouldn't listen to reason, even though he'd never won much of anything. One night as they were arguing in a gas station, Glenda decided to teach Buddy a lesson by buying a ticket of her own, which she was sure would be a bust, to demonstrate that he was wasting his money. Her scheme did not go exactly as planned. Glenda could hardly believe her eyes when the ticket turned out to be a $1 million winner. Since it's probably safe to say that Buddy couldn't have spent that much on scratch tickets in several lifetimes, it turned out that his habit may not have been such a waste after all. Glenda admitted to having to eat her words, while pointing out that they were actually pretty good words to have to eat, and the couple used the money to pay off their house. No word on whether Buddy has continued playing the lottery. An unidentified man in Adamstown, Pennsylvania got the surprise of his life after buying a simple painting of a country scene found at a garage sale. Removing the painting from its damaged frame, he found what appeared to be a copy of the Declaration of Independence in fantastic condition, hidden behind the canvas of his $4 purchase. The man showed the document to experts at the famed Sotheby's auction house, who not only verified its authenticity but were able to determine some interesting details. It was printed on July 4, 1776 by John Dunlap and is one of the original copies intended to go out to each colony. It's one of only 24 known to exist, and one of only 3 that are held in private collections. At auction, the document was sold to the president of a fine arts investment firm for a whopping $2,420,000, by far a record for any piece of historical Americana. While it was not disclosed the amount that the seller had hoped to get for his find, auctioneer David Redden said that he thought the man was going to be rather stunned to learn how much it had gone for. In 1998, the world of Major League Baseball was transfixed as two once-in-a-generation home run sluggers, Mark McGwire of the St. Louis Cardinals and Sammy Sosa of the Chicago Cubs, competed to see how much damage could be done to the single-season home run record, which for 3 decades had stood at 61. While Sosa ended up shattering that record with 66, McGwire ended up victorious, setting a new record of 70 home runs, which still stands today. 26-year-old Philip Mazursky was attending the historic game in which McGwire set the record. While he might have expected to see a little history being made, he may not have expected history to come flying right at him in the form of McGwire's record-setting 70th home run. According to Philip's account, the ball bounced off the hand of somebody who leaped in front of him, ricocheted off a wall, and came to rest under the bleachers, and the ball ended up right in his hand. Auction House Guernsey held an auction the next year during which several historic balls were auctioned off. An anonymous buyer picked up Mazursky's lucky catch for $3 million, the easiest and biggest money ever earned for a day out of the ballpark. While the buyer would not disclose his name or hometown, he did make a statement through a representative. "Tell them I'm a heck of a baseball fan." Back in 1994, most people were still not quite sure exactly what the internet was, or what it was supposed to do for us. It might seem strange now, but the idea of shopping, watching movies, or ordering food delivery online was completely foreign to the public. So when 29-year-old Chris Clark picked up the domain name pizza.com for $20, it probably seemed more like a gamble than an incredibly smart investment. Nevertheless, Chris paid the annual fees and retained ownership of the domain for 14 years. By 2008, smartphones had hit the market. The internet had become an irreplaceable part of our daily lives, and Chris decided to see what his purchase might be worth. He put the domain up for auction with a starting bid of $100, and by the time the auction closed, he was a multi-millionaire. The domain was bought for an astonishing $2.6 million, one of the largest sums ever paid for a domain name to an individual. While this is certainly a life-changing amount of money, Chris did admit to having one small regret: not buying more domain names when he had the chance. In January 2015, Revere, Massachusetts man Richard Knoll was running late for lunch with friends. He knew they would be splitting the bill and wanted to pay in cash, but all he had was a $100 bill, so he ducked into a nearby convenience store to make change, but he had to make a purchase. Since he was on his way to lunch, he had no need for a snack, and instead decided on a couple of scratch lottery tickets. It turned out to be the best off-the-cuff decision of his life. One of the tickets was a $10 million jackpot winner, enough for Richard to buy a nice house, make some investments, and pick up lunch for all of his friends every day for roughly 100 years. Not only was his life changed forever by his refusal to use a debit card, it also turned out pretty well for the convenience store clerk, who received a $50,000 bonus just for selling the winning ticket. Charlie Ayers had spent 7 years in the restaurant industry and was quickly approaching burnout in 1996. While taking gigs as a personal chef, he lucked into an $80,000 per year job working for a wealthy family in Silicon Valley. Unfortunately, although the money was great, he hated his clients. Through his girlfriend, he heard about a small tech startup that was looking for a chef for its cafeteria. The job didn't pay much, at $45,000 per year, just over half of what he was already making. But there were stock options and other benefits, and Charlie decided to take a chance. To say the risk paid off would be the understatement of the century. The small tech startup was Google, and within the next 10 years it would rise to utterly dominate the internet. Charlie became its executive chef and stayed on until 2005, when he left to pursue his own business interests. While he never disclosed what he made feeding the employees of the world's largest tech company during his last several years, it's safe to say that his decision to take the initial pay cut was a smart one. At the time of his departure from Google, his stock options alone were worth $26 million. In 2015, an anonymous scrap metal dealer from the Midwest paid $14,000 for a giant load of scrap in a jumble sale. Among the objects, he found a tiny egg-shaped 3-inch ornament that he thought may have some value. Hoping to melt it down and get perhaps $500 for it, he contacted several buyers, but was turned down everywhere he went. In frustration, he typed the word egg and the name engraved on it, Vacheron Constantine, into Google and discovered that his life was about to change forever. He found a Daily Telegraph article describing a frantic search for the third imperial egg, made by Fabergé for the Russian royal family in 1887. It had been thought lost after being auctioned off by the Soviets in 1922, but had recently been recognized by Fabergé researchers in a 1964 auction catalog. Somehow, it had made its way into the American Midwest and into the hands of an incredibly lucky scrap metal dealer. The man flew to London and had the egg's authenticity confirmed by Fabergé experts. It was purchased by a private collector for an undisclosed amount, but its value was initially determined to be over $30 million. 73-year-old Terry Horton, a former long-haul trucker from California, came across an unusual piece while shopping for a friend in a thrift shop. The dinner table-sized painting was an abstract piece with an explosion of colors and was on sale for only $5. Unfortunately, it was too big to fit into her friend's trailer, so Terry took it home. Sometime later, the painting ended up in Terry's yard sale. A passing high school art teacher noted the resemblance to a work of Jackson Pollock, the famous abstract painter whose original works can sell for millions. Terry decided to check it out, and in doing so, ignited a fierce debate in the art world. She spent years attempting to get the painting authenticated, and for a long time it appeared she would be unsuccessful. Many experts who examined the piece felt that it did not have the soul of a Pollock, plus it was unsigned and had been discovered lying around in a thrift shop. However, a forensic expert was able to match a fingerprint on Terry's painting with those on 2 authenticated works by the artist, as well as a can of paint from his studio. It appeared that Terry's find was genuine after all, and even though she received an offer of $9 million from a Saudi Arabian buyer, she turned it down. She says she will not budge from her asking price of $50 million, and many experts believe she'll eventually get it. In the spring of 2000, antique collector Rick Norsigian was scouring neighborhood garage sales looking for a barber's chair. 2 decaying boxes in the corner caught his eye, and he discovered that they were full of old-style glass photographic plates, noticing that some showed images of Yellowstone Park, a favorite destination. Rick picked up both boxes for $45, stored them under a pool table at his house, and forgot about them for 4 years. That's when the plates were discovered to be the long-lost work of photographer Ansel Adams, whose photos of the American landscape in the early 20th century have become iconic. They were shot between 1919 and 1930, making it even more amazing that they survived, as the photographer's studio was almost totally destroyed in a 1937 fire. In fact, fire damage on some of the plates helped to verify their authenticity. Some of the shots are even identical to well-known Adams prints. Norsigian allowed the plates to tour universities and museums around the country before storing them someplace presumably safer than under the pool table. While it may take years to sell all of them, experts valued the entire collection of plates at a staggering $200 million.